All right, so Screambox finally has something to watch. You know, when Screambox originated and we got on it and it was like $15 for 6 months, I was all like, oh, that's really cool. And there's some good movies on there if you're someone who doesn't already own every fucking old movie. So I was like, oh, it'd be a good deal for someone who isn't like a big physical media collector.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was like, you know, at that time they had gotten Terrifier 2 and they had gotten a couple other things that I was like, oh, maybe they're going to put out, like Shudder, some originals. But man, it has been scant, to say the least. There is nothing for a long time. And finally, we got this, and we are also getting a movie called We Are Zombies? Was that what it's called? Yeah, We Are Zombies, which is from the filmmakers behind like Turbo Kid and Summer of '84, which I'm just stoked out of my mind for. But Screambox finally has something to actually watch. And this is a South Korean... not to be mixed up with all the North Korean films that we get. Right. I don't know why I don't just say Korean, but for some reason I'm always compelled to say South Korean, even though North Korea does not make movies that I'm aware of.
That are
if
wide
they
release.
do, they only are shown in the country, and it's probably about how wonderful their leader is. But yeah, so this is a Korean anthology.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, we actually watched this back-to-back with another anthology, which we'll be covering next. And they're both from 2024. Mm-hmm. And I have pretty similar things to say about them, actually. So I really enjoyed this. Mm-hmm. Really surprised by it. I didn't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. So this is about a journalist who is sent in undercover to this cult religious group who are trying to communicate with their deity through body parts of victims. Mm-hmm. And with each body part, we get the background behind them. Now, this isn't told by anyone. We just see the body part, and then we're transported to the story.
Yeah.
And with a little title of what the story's called. The setup for this definitely reminded me somewhat of Chilling Vision's Five Senses of Fear, which is an anthology that deals with 5 different segments, all having to do with one of the 5 senses, which I always thought was one of the coolest ways to do an anthology film. I don't know if someone's done the 7 Deadly Sins. I think they have. But that's an obvious one as well. But the 5 senses is really cool. And we kind of get that at first, because I think the first one's eyes, and then it's the tongue. So it's oh, they're going to do sight, taste. And then I was like, wait, well, how would they do touch? And then I was like, maybe a hand. It doesn't go in that direction. It's just, other body parts from there. But I was like, oh, it's kind of like that. And it was going to be dealing with those, senses. I liked most of the segments. Mm-hmm. I think there was one. What was the one that we weren't big on?
There's an exorcism segment that we did not like.
No.
But I think the rest of them we enjoyed. There's one that I think we both liked the most, which is... I forget which body part it is, actually. But there's a segment where a kid's getting bullied for being able to see ghosts. And he,
I think...
That's the segment.
I think it's the second or third. It's second or third, I think.
I think it's third.
Third, yeah. I think so, too.
I really liked that one because it had some really cool, just monsters and
ghosts
in
it. Had
it.
a bunch
I really liked the vibe and the way they looked. But all of them, I think, were good. I like the wraparound as well. That's always, with anthologies, the wraparound is just as important as the mini stories within the film. So I really like the wraparound. And aside from the exorcism segment, which I just thought was very lame,
I agree.
The rest of them were really cool. They had some gore at times, some pretty brutal stuff, and just creepy. A lot of them were really creepy and unsettling.
Yeah, one of the segments very much was inspired by Saw.
Oh, yeah.
There's one that's absolutely a Saw trap, basically from Saw 4. But I liked it. I thought that was cool. More Saw, the better for me. Yeah. So I'm down for more segments like that. So that was cool. There was something in there that was fairly triggering for Kaylee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's an animal death in there as a warning.
Yeah.
Not like the actual, it's just like the aftermath, but I did not like it at all. So.
Yeah. I mean, technically,
I guess it was
dead,
the death. I don't know. There's an animal thing in that
injured.
segment, that's the second to last one. Or the last one before the wraparound resolves, I think. I'm pretty sure.
It's the fourth of the 5, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought. It doesn't matter, but...
Anyway.
I really enjoyed this. I think if you're a big Anthology fan and you're a fan of, like, Korean cinema, then this is, like, a really good blend of those two.
Yeah,
and
it's fun.
Was very surprised to find out that this was mostly done by new time directors. That all of them, I was looking at their credits and none of them had like any credits of any sort.
Oh, cool.
So this seems to be like a freshman effort from a bunch of people, and I'm really impressed. I thought that this was very cool, and I'm excited. When I of course saw the title, I was thinking of the 1991 Jeff Fahey movie Body Parts, and thought like maybe it was a remake or something, and then I saw it was Korean, and I was like, I don't think they'd remake that. And then, when I think we pressed play before I even knew it was an anthology.
Oh, yeah, we didn't realize it was an anthology.
And then the next one we followed this up with, I didn't know that was an anthology either.
Yeah.
When I went to, watch it, and I was like, oh. Unfortunately, you're not going to hear about that one for a few more days because it is under embargo. This was a screener, but, so if you're wondering where that review is tonight, it's going to be like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But that one doesn't even come out till September. But we'll talk about that in that review. But just in case you're wondering where the hell it is, you're like, I thought you did a double feature. Where's the review? But yeah, Body Parts. Good win for Screambox. They need definitely. Wins. They got exclusive rights to Terrifier 3 as well. But they really do. Like, if they want to compete with Shudder, this is how they do it.
Yeah, they need to have the Screambox originals for sure.
Yeah, and I know it's a risky endeavor. I know that like all it takes, but is like a couple bad ones, and then you lose everybody. So you do have to be cautious with what you do take on, and make sure that you got people that are making good films. Or I think with Shudder and Netflix, like especially Netflix, at first what they were doing was they were going to festivals and they were picking up films and, having them, much like Terrifier 2, it was Screambox exclusives. Yeah. Right? And you start with the exclusives so you don't have to do on the production end of things. You can just pick up the films and pay the price that you feel like, you get into the bidding wars. I don't need to tell you guys how to do your job. I'm just saying this is how Screambox could start to set themselves above the other like lesser known horror streaming sites. Sure. If they want to compete with something like Shudder, the reason Shudder is so prevalent in the horror community is because they release so many great originals. Yeah. We got Oddity this year, we got Arcadian this year, we got they've released some big hitters. In the last few years, I have at least 1 or 2 in my top 10.
Sure.
Shudder originals. When Evil Lurks, which is my number 1 from last year, was Shudder. So, Screambox has really been a letdown. I feel like I paid $15 to watch this movie because I have not watched it in the 6 months that I've had it, and I've had it for 2 6-month cycles now, right? I've paid probably $30 at this point, which I thought was a good deal at the time.
Well, as you said,
I've probably watched 3 movies now, and it's those are $10 a piece at this point.
For people who are if you're using Screambox to access the movies that you don't have physical copies of, or that you maybe can't find other places, it's a great deal. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are probably getting their money's worth for it, but for people like us, where we're pretty much just subscribe to it for any exclusives or originals, then it's not as good of a deal. So,
and I'm really looking forward to We Are Zombies.
Yeah, for sure.
That's coming out I think next Friday, next week, really soon.
Nice.
So you maybe they only had so much and they're backloading it. Right, because it's the spooky season's coming up, and they're really trying to
time to release.
Yeah. they're like, we're not going to do it in January and February and all that and like spread them out. They're kind of just waiting. But yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Definitely check it out if you're an Anthology fan, if you're a South Korean fan. I'm a big fan of this one, and I did like how the wraparound ended. I liked all of what. So like the wraparounds typically for me, they're a lot of the times, especially nowadays, they're much to do about nothing, and like they don't really go anywhere. And with this one, I liked the reveal of what it all was.
Yeah,
and
me
I was
too.
like, oh, cool.
Me
like
too.
I'm in on that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy with it, and it's good to see a good anthology because
absolutely, we love anthologies.
I'm trying to remember the last one we really enjoyed. I know you liked VHS 85. I didn't.
I did, yeah.
I'm looking forward to VHS Beyond.
Very excited for that.
And a sneak peek. Lore is the next film. We're not allowed to talk about it, but you can decipher that for yourself. But I can't remember another anthology we've seen in recent memory. You know what? You know what's wild is like anthologies in theaters is like not a thing.
Yes, yeah. I don't know when I've seen an anthology in theaters. I don't think I ever have. Like,
I'm trying to think if I've ever seen an anthology in theaters. They like almost never release. The only thing I can think of is like Trick or Treat.
They're so fun though. I really love the shorter stories. I don't know. They're very like, they feel very Halloween-y for some reason, no matter like what the setting is. Like Southbound, is very like desert western kind of vibe, but I don't know. Anthologies always just remind me of Halloween. And it probably is just like that idea of like people telling scary stories, and I don't know, but I really like them. So we don't get enough of them, that's for sure. They're a great way for like filmmakers. Oh, you know what one we watched? It was last year. It was the Spanish anthology.
We did see an anthology. We saw it in a drive-in.
We saw that in a drive-in.
Satanic Hispanics.
Yeah, Satanic Hispanics, which was really good.
That might be the only anthology I've ever seen in theaters.
Yeah.
Theaters.
But it's fun to give like directors like, like just an opportunity to do a shorter bit.
The Grindhouse is technically an anthology. You get 2 full films and some fake trailers. I guess you could consider that an anthology.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's a good way for filmmakers to kind of test stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen a bunch like of anthologies in recent years with the VHS franchise.
Of course, yeah.
And there's actually been not a ton, but there's been quite a few in the last maybe 5 years, but none of them make theaters. The only time when like anthologies were really making the theaters was like during the Amicus days back in the 70s. Started in the 60s, but I think it got real big for them in the 70s. But I think mostly that was in like Europe. That wasn't as much in the States. For anyone old enough, were they playing like Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror from Beyond the Grave? Like, were they playing those in like American cinemas wide release?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I wasn't old enough. I'm not old enough to have seen those. Those are before my day. Those are 50 plus years ago, and you'd have to be at least in your 60s to have seen them. So, but I think that's the only time when anthologies were like popular outside of like television anthologies, like Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, right? Like we get it on TV a lot, but all of the anthologies now are like straight to VOD. And then all the anthologies from when I was a kid were mostly straight to VHS, Campfire Tales and Terror Tract, and all the films, the Willies, and all the shit that I've covered on the channel. They're like, if they got a release in theaters, they were limited. They were very small. Yeah. So there's very, very few films. And even like the Tales from the Crypt films, like Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood and whatever, those weren't anthologies. They were one story that the Crypt Keeper was telling in long form. So yeah, it's interesting. Even like Halloween 3 was supposed to be pitched as like the start of an anthology series, but that's not an actual anthology with like multiple stories.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
John Carpenter's Body Bags was like a straight to HBO, like, you know what I mean? So it's interesting that anthologies are just not a thing in theaters.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I think they're hard sells.
Maybe, yeah.
I think they're hard sells to people. They're like, I want one story.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. I love them.
But there's like that one, the romance one that everyone loves. That's like an anthology.
Oh, the Christmas one?
With Andrew from friggin' Walking Dead. Andrew Lincoln. He's like, you're perfect to me, to Keira Knightley.
Isn't that a Christmas? Isn't that
an anthology?
That is, I think. It's like, that's like a really famous movie too.
Yeah.
I feel bad I don't know the name. I've seen it.
I saw it once.
I thought it was a Christmas movie.
It is.
Okay, it's like a Christmas love story.
But that's an anthology.
Yes, because you jump.
It's not horror, but
you jump back and forth.
It's just rare. They're just rare. That's all I'm trying to get at.
Is it something with love?
Love Actually, isn't it?
Is it Love Actually?
I'm like 99% sure it's Love Actually.
Yeah,
anyways, that's it.
All right.
Anything more?
Nope.
Yeah. Check it out. Let us know.
Bye.